So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to University Centre Newbury's Elevate Your Workforce event this morning in partnership with the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sarah Atkinson and I'm a member of the employee engagement team here in Newbury. And I've got the pleasure today of hosting the webinar. During the next 45 minutes, we're going to be looking at some of the challenges faced by organisations today in terms of attracting, recruiting and developing talent, as well as the impact that poor management skills can have on an organisation's performance. We know that retaining and attracting talent is a real struggle, and employers today have got to really invest in every aspect of their offer to ensure that they really appeal to the broadest pool of talent and look for new ways to increase productivity. We all want to work for successful and growing businesses. So we've been collaborating with employers across various sectors and industries for many years. And one thing that all organisations have in common is the need for good management. Employees who work under effective managers are 15 times more likely to excel and 3 times more likely to stay. And a good manager can even increase profitability by up to 48%, according to research. Right now, organisations are facing a bit of a crisis in management, and managers can fail to make an impact, but also sometimes make things worse. So to discover some of the solutions and to discuss them with me today, I'm welcoming our esteemed panel of speakers, which I'm now going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. So let's start first of all with Paulina, and then Joe, and then Kushi, and then Tim, please.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Paulina Ojo. I am the development coach for the Chartered Manager Apprenticeship Program. I work as the key point of contact between the apprentice and the employer and as the course leader for the degree component of the program.
Thank you. And Joe?
I'm Jo Houghton. I'm the Vice Principal for Higher Education and Skills at the University Centre and Newbury College.
Thank you. And Kushi?
Hello, my name is Kushi Ashwin and I'm a second year apprentice student at the Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship Programme.
Finally, no means but last but least, Tim Ager from the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce, and I'm a direct contact point for businesses across the region.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. So, Tim, you are now going to kick us off. I know the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce recently released some of its latest economic report data. Talk us through that, please.
Yeah, I will do. So what I'll do is we do a quarterly economic survey with all our members, and I just give you a brief insight there where I'm not going to go through all of it. You'll be relieved to know. But it's a survey where effectively we just basically ask our businesses in the same way as that we all get sort of sent surveys with, it's not a how did we perform, but it's how are you doing and what your thoughts are. So it's been going since 1989. Okay, so the largest running independent survey of businesses across the country. So it's not just in the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce region. It's across the country, and effectively it measures and asks businesses to measure their performance by a series of indicators. But it's broadly how are you doing today? Look at this this particular slide. This will give good background to our discussion today. This one is basically saying, how are your sales performing? In other words, how is your business actually doing? And you will see that the blue graph there is GDP, where what we've also done there in this particular graph, we've split it between manufacturing and service, and you'll see where those wavery lines are going. Dipped completely, you can see in the COVID period, but what we've seen is some recovery in the last quarter, because this is 3 months figures only, so I understand that's where we are. But of course this covers that sort of December-January period, which is notoriously with long bank holidays is always difficult for business as well. increasing investment. So we're asking businesses, are you reinvesting in sort of some of the capital and plant and machinery in your businesses? And plant and machinery these days can be a bit misleading, because that can be everything from laptops and software services into different delivery programs. And you'll see there that if you look at the total, that actually broadly flat, and it gone down a little bit. So we're actually seeing that decrease in that inward investment. But you'll notice there's some sectorial disparities there. Right at the bottom, look at the hospitality and catering line, which has seen the most reduction in its inward investment. But one interesting thing just to mention, as a separate survey that we did as well, 70% of those asked out of 1,000 different businesses said they'd no plans to invest in AI, which was probably a bit of a surprise, I guess, to most. But here's a very relevant piece of work in connection with today's webinar. Here's the figures of businesses that have attempted to recruit and those who have experienced recruitment difficulties. And if you look at that attempted to recruit, pretty steady all the way through, if you look at that blue line on the left-hand side, whilst those who did not attempt, which I guess, because some of these businesses don't actually employ anybody at all, because it's a broad brush of businesses as well. So, but look at the line on the right-hand side, and that's been steady all the way through that sort of COVID and post-COVID period, where you see that recruitment difficulty percentages is really high. Did we have trouble finding staff? Then, yeah, it really was a telling number. Slightly off the peak where it was in 2021, but actually there's not much of a shift. If you look, there's been a slight ease in the last quarter, but I think that's probably a bit of seasonal variation thrown in there as well. So that's pretty much a background of the scene. It's about, if we wanted staff, can we find them? It's a problem. And that's for a whole different reasons. But let's just finally, just to move on very quickly, give you some other background. Pricing, businesses' expectation to increase their own prices, as you will see. You look at those lines, manufacturing and service sector, still expecting their businesses to actually increase prices in the coming 3 months. And that's brought on by, we've seen some of that movement in shipping costs has increased, and that will start to come in during the next quarter. And finally, though, business remain a pretty resilient bunch. Let me just tell you, they're drivers for the economy, and actually their confidence level remains relatively buoyant, considering some of those stats that I've just shared with you. But anyway, that gives you some idea of what businesses are seeing and experiencing at this time. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Tim. I think that's really useful, and I think it just really reinforces the importance of really thinking about your employer value proposition and what you can do to really, strengthen that and appeal to as broad a talent pool as possible. So thank you, Tim. I'd like to now move to Joe, actually, to learn a bit more about how University Centre Newbury and Newbury College are engaging with employers and what they're telling us. But before we do that, Joe, can you just explain the difference between UCN and Newbury College for our audience today, please?
Yes, certainly. So Newbury College is our further education environment. So that's for students who are up to level 3, which most people will understand as being A-level students. In 2020, we opened up our university centre, and that's for level 4, which is HNC qualifications, or people think of it as the first year of a degree course. And we run programmes up to degree level 6 and master's programmes at level 7. The difference, what we opened the university centre for, is we found there was a gap in the market for people who were in employment, who wanted to also do a degree or a master's level qualification. So most of our all of our students in the UCN are working. They balance their life, their work and their studies. Most of our programs are run on a day a week to enable people to balance out all of that themselves. And we run apprenticeship or employer sponsored degrees on a flexible basis. The average age of our students in the UCN is 35. So again, it's not the traditional A-level and you're coming into a room of 18, 19, 20-year-old students. These are people who've come up mainly through their organisations. They've reached a point in their organisation where it would be good to have a degree or a master's qualification or a higher level qualification. And that's what we were hearing from employers that was wanted in the area, that traditional universities may not be providing that sort of course. So we run with 3 universities. So we have a foundation degree in children's development and learning with the University of Reading. We run with Buckinghamshire New University to run our engineering courses, and we have a product design which covers electrical, mechanical and product design degrees. And then we run a chartered manager degree, which is a management degree, which as an apprenticeship is the chartered manager degree apprenticeship with the University of Northampton. And from next year, we'll be running the embedded electrical degree course as well. So I think it's, it's not the traditional route. I think for people who have got to a stage in their employment, who are wanting those higher level qualifications, this is an option for it. And, people may not realise that option is out there.
Okay. Thanks, Jo. And so the Chartered Manager degree that you referenced, that was really developed, I guess, in response to the need for the management skills. So tell us sort of a bit more about that kind of employer feedback and the latest research we've heard and how that aligns.
Yep, so that course was developed very much from employer feedback from many of our sectors with the accidental managers. So people who've come up through their organisations, they're very highly skilled in their specialism, and they've ended up being departmental managers, moving into the world of being a senior manager in an organisation. One of the things that was challenging, so the employers were facing, is that in many cases, because they'd come up through the progression of being very skilled in their sector area, is when then things happened to do with HR or finances or things like that, they didn't have the tools that equipped them to manage those processes effectively. Now, that message that we were hearing from employers has been very backed up with research. So the CMI in 2023 reported that 50% of employees with poor managers leave their jobs in the coming year. It's very difficult in a lot of sectors for people who've progressed through. They leave their friends behind them, and then sometimes they're then managing people they've been peers with before. And that's really hard and challenging. And then suddenly those relationship breakdowns or the challenges of those relationships are what can cause a really effective person in the workplace to then leave the workplace. So I think, we can understand the messages behind the research that's coming out. With people's well-being, so very much we're considering mental health in the workplace at the moment. And 22% of a person's well-being from the Raw report in 2023 was saying that someone's well-being is to do with their manager. And 50% of the well-being is affected of people's mental health by their managers. And that's with CIPD research. So I think it's, what we're trying to do is, with this course, it enables people to get the different aspects of management, and I'm sure Pauline and Kushi will give more detail on it, but it gives the different aspects of increasing someone's toolbox of skills that they have for management in those different sectors and in those different fields, and then linking the theory with actually what they're doing in the workplace.
That's great. Thank you, Jo. And I guess it's definitely hearing all of those facts and figures, it really reinforces that this is an issue that organisations just can't really afford to ignore. But let's move now to Paulina, our development coaching course tutor. Paulina, tell us a bit more about who you think the course is, really helping. Who's it really targeting?
So the Chartered Manager Apprenticeship Program itself is specifically designed for employees who have or are about to take on management responsibilities. These could be individuals that have been identified as top talents within your organization, or introducing new and enthusiastic talents that you have chosen as an organization to develop. The program is open to those with or without prior degree qualifications.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So I guess what's really useful to understand is that employers can send existing staff, or they can set up an apprenticeship program using government funds, or they can students themselves can self-fund as well. And we'll hear a bit more about that from Joe later, actually. But what do you anticipate the students will learn over the duration of the course, and why are those topics so important to business today?
Okay, so the CMDA program itself is designed in 3 stages. In stage 1, which is typically the first year, the students will develop the understanding of management concepts and principles, evaluating them within the context of their organization. Students will learn about accounting and finance, marketing, human resources, and creative thinking. Well, this enables them to practice decision-making based on the knowledge gained and understand the principles governing the complexity of running an organization. Then we move to stage 2, where the students now advance their knowledge and adopt a critical approach to management. Here, there is the emphasis on building and justifying various pathways to achieving organizational goals. Then we move on to stage 3, which is usually the 3rd year, where the students then apply their management knowledge to implement new projects and delivering value for stakeholders. This stage informs the students' approach to things like innovation, changing cultures, improving workplace relationships, and digital strategies. For instance, we would examine things like AI, how AI complements human skills rather than replacing them, understanding, the integration of AI and machine learning in organizational processes. These topics actually provide your employees with that critical awareness of the organization and its environment. For instance, we have the UK general election now announced to take place in the next few weeks, and the possibility of a change in the external business environment within which your organization operates. The CMDA program at UCN will empower the managers to adapt and develop that proactive approach to uncertainty. The employees will be provided with the tools to evaluate things like their leadership styles, looking at things like authentic leadership, ethical leadership, situational leadership, and the roles these play in times of uncertainty.
Thank you. That's fascinating, and I think that will resonate with a lot of our audience today when you're thinking about change management, increasing productivity, embracing things like AI. Your managers really need to understand, I guess, the impact that something like AI can have on your business. So that's great to hear, Paulina. Thank you. And why is this degree so unique when there are obviously a number of business management offerings around today? Why the Chartered Manager?
Okay, so the CMDA, the Chartered Manager degree pathway, is quite unique because every management role will have its skill set in terms of knowledge and behavior. And at UCN, we work closely with employers to align their organizational needs with the apprentice's learning journey. For example, we'll hold things like, line manager induction, where we understand the challenges that are going on within the organization and helping their students to, look for a pathway through that issue. would have assignments we have assignments on the program that are structured work-based projects. So that enables the apprentices to actually look at things that can change within the organization. We also have development coach interactions with the employer, where we have this structured progress review meetings every 3 months, which takes place between the employer and the apprentice.
That's great, thank you. And I think that makes it so much more relevant and tangible as well to the business. Paulina, tell us, how is the course itself delivered?
It's delivered through a 1-day week face-to-face lecture at UCN and guided, what we call guided independent learning. So we have online platform where the lecturers will upload contents that would support independent learning for the apprentices at their time. Assessment takes place throughout the program and is based on courseworks. On completing the 3-year degree component of the program, the apprentice would then complete the final assessment to meet the Chartered Manager Apprenticeship standards. On successful completion of the program itself, the employees will get awarded a BA in Management, a Level 6 Chartered Management Degree Apprenticeship, and a Chartered Manager status. It is a very interactive process. We work very closely with the employers, with the employees, making sure what we are delivering adds value to what happens in the organization.
Paulina, typically how many touch points go on with an employer during, shall we say, a typical year of the course?
So to start with, we'll have the induction. So that'll be the first point where the line managers meet with us, explaining the process to them. Then we'll have 3 months progress review with the development coach, the apprentice, and the line manager, just to check the progress of the apprentice, supporting the managers on how best to, make sure the apprentice is meeting the required standards. Because at the end of the day, the significance of your apprenticeship program is to determine the competency of that apprentice. How competent is that apprentice as a chartered manager?
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. So let's now ask Kushi, who's one of our current Chartered Manager students. Why did you choose this course and why did you take the apprenticeship route?
So I always knew that I wanted to do something business related. I really enjoyed the subject at school when I take my GCSEs and my A levels, and I knew I wanted to do something around that. And I did have a look at going into university, but I realized that I learn better hands-on, like getting experience and then understanding how it works relating to like the course material and like modules. So I looked into the apprenticeship route through the government website for apprenticeships, and I found the Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship, which I thought was such a great opportunity because it provides you with not only a business management degree, but also you could go through a department rotation at work. So I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do further on in the line, like which department I want to specialize in. So I knew that going through different departments, I'd be able to understand them in greater depth, and then I'd be able to figure out what I wanted and then maybe choose to specialize in it later on. So I thought it was such a great opportunity.
Right, thank you. And how do you balance the sort of work and study elements?
I think that the CMDA course, is so helpful with that because we have allocated days to go to university and study, and we have allocated days to work. But alongside that, we have like conversations with our manager who give us extra time if we have any submissions due, or even help us out if we have like any questions to ask them. And especially with our development coach. So our development coach helps with our interaction with our managers to meet any goals we want, or like anything specifically we want to get out of that specific department. And the development coach is also the person of contact for us for any issues we have related to like either the work side of it or also like any assignments or like uni work that we have to do. Yeah. And I think it's also great because we learn how to like communicate better with our manager and like with the development coach in a professional setting, like for work as well as university.
That's great. So it's a real collaboration, I guess, by the sounds.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Joe, I'd like to come back to you at this point, maybe to talk a little bit more about how companies can get started in improving their learning and development offer. Tell us a bit more about how if someone's listening to us today, how they can get started.
Yes, certainly. I mean, the first thing I would say, which is the easiest option for an employer or anybody looking at developing one of these courses that are linked with their employment, is to contact us. So if they contact the University Centre, we have teams of people who are specialists in this, and this is what we do. So, we can give the best advice and guidance. Really, for employers, as companies, so there's different basis of how these programs are funded. So if a company has a pay bill of more than £3 million, they will be paying something called an apprenticeship levy. And that's a form of business tax, but you can utilise that business tax that they're paying for apprenticeship training. So it can pay the training cost of an apprentice. The employer would still need to pay the wages of the apprentice, but it pays for the training and delivery of the course. If a company is not sure, they can contact their payroll department. So usually the payroll department, finance, or HR in an organisation would know that. For smaller companies with a smaller pay bill, they will be mainly funded or are either fully funded by the government. So the maximum payment that a smaller organisation would pay is 5% of the programme, which for an engineering degree, which is £27,000 over 4 or 5 years, they'd only pay a maximum of 5% of that. So really, £1,000 to pay for a 27,000, just over £1,000 for a £27,000 course. So again, it's very cost effective for organisations to be training people and upskilling current staff if they want to use it for current staff. If someone wants to do the degrees outside of employment, so they may not have employment, or an employer doesn't want to do the apprenticeship scheme, they can self-fund. So there are student loans, HE student loans, and again, there's portals. We have advice and guidance on those. And so again, sort of contact us. And we can help with that. I would say with employers, we have teams of people. This is what we're experts in. So if we work with you, so right from the point of how do you set up your apprenticeship account? How do you set up your apprenticeship portal to make sure that you're, you can see your levy funds, you can see the funds, you can set up that to get government funds to support if you're wanting to do apprenticeship. So we help with setting that up. We can work with your organisation. We can look at how much funds you have and how you can utilise those most effectively. With what Paulina was saying about, the working with the employer and the line manager, we also do mentor training. So one of the things that certainly in organisations can be quite challenging is if managers suddenly get confronted with, oh, you're going to have apprentices in your department, and they say, but I don't know what am I doing? Am I now becoming a teacher and things like that? We run mentoring programs to enable line managers or the mentor of apprentices to understand what does that involve, what sort of conversations, how to have those conversations most effectively, and how to work with enabling the employment and the training program to work most effectively together to get the best benefits for that. If sometimes employers will decide to utilise the funds to upskill current staff, but if they're needing to recruit, again, we have a whole team of staff who work with the employer to advertise the vacancies, help with the shortlisting. We can be involved in interview, so again, whatever an employer needs us to do, or just go, I know nothing, help. I think, that's what we do, that's what we want to do, and let's have the conversations and we can get everybody started.
That's great. And I think it can be perhaps daunting to know where to get started. So it's great to know that the team can help, and it's a sort of a one-stop shop, really, I guess, is what you're saying, Joe. But there are some other benefits as well for employers, aren't they? Particularly in that broader sort of corporate social responsibility area. Tell us about that too.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, the best way to support social mobility, again, because the UCM, we also have a very large support network in the UCM. People will come in from different backgrounds and different experiences onto a university study. So supporting social mobility is huge here, and we do workshops and things like that to enable people to come up to the same level, irrespective of what avenue they've taken to come onto the course. So there's lots of help and support for that. I think it is about, Kushi and Paulina were talking about rewarding your best talent. You can offer someone the opportunity to do their degree or their master's program while they're being employed, and that's a big incentive for a lot of employers, because student debt at the moment, it's all over the news. It's huge, and that's something that I think an employer can really do. The corporate social responsibility, a lot of employers do work with us to ensure that they are meeting that, and they're doing that. So I think that, we call it widening participation. It's basically enabling people who may not have thought that they would have the opportunity to do higher level study and these sort of qualifications, or to get to that level in their organizations. We're giving everybody the opportunity to do that, and with the help and support and training, and utilizing government funds effectively, or utilizing business taxes effectively, to enable organizations to give benefit to their teams.
That's great. Thanks, Jo. We are going to open up for Q&A in a minute. So if anyone does have any comments or questions for us, please do feel free to put them into the chat. Before we do, Jo, I'd just like to really ask you, and we've talked about Chartered Manager quite a lot today, but obviously there are many other topics and courses and support that the college offers. Just tell us just briefly, more broadly, about some of those.
Yes, so if we work from our employer engagement in the college side, we have T-levels now, and T-levels are a level 3 qualification. So they're the technical equivalent to A-levels. They're equivalent to 3 A-levels. And with a T-level, all of the students undertake at least 315 hours on their course with an employer. So this is an opportunity for employers to identify talent that we have in the college, but they can actually see whether or not they work with their organisation. So we are always looking for employers who are interested in engaging with us with our T-level students. Students on our level 2 programs and non-T-level programs at level 3 also have work experience. So this is where we're wanting employers to, we do lots of the knowledge, skills and behaviours of going into employment, but then they need that exposure of actually, what is a working day like, working with an organisation and understanding that in a context rather than in a classroom. So we are always looking for people to engage with us for work experience. Government policy at the moment it's such an exciting time. I get far too excited about the fact that at the moment policy is enabling us to work closer with organisations and with companies. And what we can do now is if any organisation out there feels that they can't find a training program, they can't find the right course that is meeting their skills need. They've got these skills needs and they can't find how to meet that, or they can't find the talent in the area to recruit from. That's where we really need the conversation, because we've got many avenues of different funding. They've just changed adult funding at the moment to become adult skills funding. There's amazing opportunities. So let's have the conversation. We're funding experts. We know this world. We really want companies to say, we have these skills needs. how can you help us? What can we design and develop? We can design new degrees. We've done that with organisations before. So we can actually set up programs, and we can design programs to help local companies to meet their skills needs.
Jay, one question on the funding perspective. Very specific question. There's someone here asking about HR specific training for a member of staff who I think is going to specialise in that field. And picking up on the idea of funding and specialisms, is that something that's available? In terms of, I think the funding aspect has probably made someone's ears perk up particularly there.
Yes, and I think that, again, I think it's that message of contact us, because we also have partners that we work with, so partner organisations, that if we don't offer a particular avenue, then we know who does, and we know we can offer, again, advice and guidance on how they can most effectively consider which qualifications in which way that would be funded in different ways, because there's many different options of how funding can work for qualifications.
That's good. So you can effectively act as the signpost to either other colleges or funding options or external, I suppose, even remote learning offered by different organisations.
Yeah. So, it is that thing of making sure that we have now what's called a local skills improvement plan, and that's basically all organisations working collaboratively in an area to say collectively we are trying to ensure that we're providing the skills needs for the region and wanting those conversations. So let's have conversations, I think, is the message that I'm giving today, and we can help and support with any of those questions that organisations have.
And T levels, Jay, I think you mentioned work experience. From an employer, what would the expectation in terms of days a week, days a month? How does it work?
People do it in different ways, and we're finding that different sectors have, it's quite specific with different sectors. So it can either be in blocks. So sometimes, it's sort of at the end of a program, an employer will say, I'll have a student or some students for a week or a few weeks, or they can do it throughout the course of having them for a day. So again, there's different models, and I don't think there is a one size fits all. Definitely, we're not saying, okay,
like one day a week or anything
like this. I think it's it's down to the employer to advise what works for their organisation. Again, like I said, with the apprenticeships, we can provide mentor training. We do have a team that work with our industry placements and our work experience to again work with the employers, and we can support the employers with how to effectively integrate a work placement student into the organisation so they get benefit from them, rather than, again, there is a little bit of a perception sometimes of, what am I going to do? How on earth would I manage that? Well, it does
particularly in a smaller organisation where there might be only 3 or 4 people total.
Yeah.
And the thought of having a body coming in once a week or once a month might be quite overwhelming, particularly if they're out and about a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's, that can be how it's perceived. However, again, we can give an indication of all of the help and support and guidance and, how we work together with that. And we've had, with the placements we've had at the moment, we've had huge success. A lot of organisations are taking on students and recruiting the students that they've had on the industry or industry placements or the work experience. So it's a very good and effective recruitment tool, because it's almost, the try before you buy model. You can actually build a relationship with a set of students and see which ones work with your organisations or which ones get really excited about what your organisation does. And then, you know, that's easier to then recruit, because when you put your job advert out, they know you, you've already built that relationship of knowing that, you know, you've got a pool of talents that there's going to be a much easier recruitment.
And does that work for remote work options as well?
The areas where people are still working remotely, we can't do work placements. But again, what I would say for employers who've got remote working is we do have events. So we have quite a lot of employer events where employers come in. And again, you can tell our students about what your organisation does, you know, what's exciting about it, get them really fueled of, you know, that's great, I'm really excited about doing that. So again, when people are recruiting, the students understand what happens in that workplace, what does that company do, and they're more likely to then get the talent coming to them from their adverts.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Tim. That was great, actually. I'm conscious we've only got a few minutes left. We've got a few questions for our panelists, which I'd just like to put to them before we wrap up today. The first one really is for Paulina. When we talk to employers, what we sometimes hear is that many have leadership and development courses already in place in-house. So why should an organisation consider something like the Chartered Manager, particularly if an employee already has a degree in another subject? Tell us a bit about that, please.
Well, the Chartered Manager Apprenticeship Program provides a significant advantage that an in-house course cannot. And that is the opportunity for a lifelong learning and delivering that life-changing opportunity. The CMDA program gives your organization the opportunity to also improve recruitment and staff retention, as of course your organization is invested in employee development and future potential. Overall, the rigor of the program equips your employees with that globally recognized expertise status, giving them credence, giving them that confidence to be the very best they can within their industry.
Yeah, okay, thank you, that's helpful. And Jo, just one other question that we have, which is, I don't know if my organisation pays the levy. How can I find out? Can we help with that?
Yes, certainly. So it is based on how big the payroll bill is of people who are working in England. So again, if you're, you know, if it's a global company, it is England's funding. So they can either talk to their payroll department, their finance department, or their HR department, or again, contact us, because setting up, so all organisations who are wanting to utilise apprenticeships will need an apprenticeship service account, and we have a team of people who can help and support set that up. So again, if an organisation can't find out through their own departments, contact us, because again, we can help and support that, and we can see whether or not they have an apprenticeship service account set up and can set that up for them if they haven't.
That's excellent, thank you. And Tim, any other comments or thoughts from the Chamber's perspective before we wrap up today?
No, I think all employers, regardless of size, whether they're looking to employ their very first person or their 101st person, I think have the same challenges, different sizes, and I suppose it's that ubiquitous time challenge is always one for an employer, if that makes sense. But there is very much a recognition by all employers of all shapes and sizes, the fact that you know, their staff that they fought to recruit and look after is something they want to continue to do so. So that object of some further improving them through going and seeing Paulina and doing the chartered course, amongst other courses. I know you do lots of things. You know, it provides an opportunity for that often neglected word apprentice as well. But I find in my travels particularly that the word apprentice is now adopted widely, whether it's professional services or engineering, manufacturing. I think that's a now widely accepted word and a widely accepted expression of development and good working practice.
Thank you very much. So what I'd like to do now really is just thank all of our panelists for joining us today, to Paulina, to Kushi, to Joe. Tim, thank you to you and the Chamber for hosting us. I do just want to share a telephone number with everyone. If you are interested in learning more, you can give us a call today on 01635 845 229. You can find out a lot more information on our website. We have a series of employer events coming up at the college, so join us to learn more, and we look forward to working with you. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today, and we wish you a very good rest of day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. See you all soon.